Chris Jacobs is in the house, pushing the button, Mrs. Ryan.
Oogie doogie.
Well, that didn't take long.
No, it did not.
Hi, Mrs. Ryan.
Hello.
It's funny. When we first started doing this, I sent out it was just one of those, like, the people your fans have or you think might be a good match, and I sent out a reach to the fellow who's here today, and it was one of those, like, yeah, sure, totally, but we'll have to work it into my schedule, and here it is about a year later, just like everybody else, and he's here today. Chris Jacobs is in the house. Awesome. Hello, everybody. And in the meantime, Mrs. Ryan, hello, welcome back. Today is Wednesday, May 15th, 2019. My name is Jay Ryan. This is Nicole Ryan. We are the Ryans, and this is It's Tonight's Show. As I mentioned, our guest tonight is Chris Jacobs. You probably remember him from Overhaulin or all the shows he's on in the Discovery Network and everywhere else. I believe he was on NFL for a bit. It's all over the joint. I think I saw him on 2.5 Men once.
I looked at his IMDb. He's been in everything, and a lot of red carpet stuff. He's so cool.
Yeah. So we're going to speed through this stuff and get to him as quickly as possible. There's a lot of Luftgekult stuff. We're going to get to some of that today, some of it tomorrow. But welcome back, everybody. This is our first new show of the week. We've had a bunch of those cut downs that we did. But this is our first time to talk about a few things, including, Mrs. Ryan, what do you think about checking in with the East Coast feed?
That would be great.
We're over here, checking with Danbury, Chive, and the Kazman and Brooke, and see where they were on Friday morning. Roll it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Breakfast Club. Brooke and the Kazman, East Coast feed, coming to you live. Look at everyone's in the background. Everyone who's on the show. Everyone's famous. We're going to walk around and get everybody's attention. Just to make sure they know we're in the show. Look, see, he's on the show. He runs the show. That's Nicole. In case you guys don't know who that is. Look this, sorry. It's the West Coast feed. West Coast feed, baby. The Breakfast Club. B-Dubber, everyone's here. Look at this. Breakfast Club it up. I know, we got tons of people here. This is how we do it on a random Friday when you happen to just come into California. Boom, my resident photographer's in the house. Everybody say hello. Come on, you're all on TV. There we go, everybody's on. Come on, boys and girls, say hi. Everyone's on. It's okay, don't be shy, don't be shy. There we go. The whole room is full back here. Look at this. We got the whole crew. Everybody wave hello. There we go. Newcombs on a Friday morning. Everybody, East Coast feed coming to you from the West Coast. This is the podcast with Jay Ryan and Mrs. Ryan at the It's Tonight Show. We love you guys.
Oh, man, the energy on that guy. It's incredible.
That's right. East Coast feed was on the West Coast. They came to Breakfast Club. They came to some of our events and stuff. Lots and lots of fun. Great to see them. After the Breakfast Club, we had our Porsche open house. You remember that? Mm-hmm. With Ray Schaefer and Nicholas Hunziker and Tori Alonso, producer from this program. And shortly after that, we did some promos. Brooke and Kazman were like, oh, can we be on the show? And the whole bit. And we're like, well, we don't actually have a show scheduled. But they wanted, the experience and everything. So we turned the lights on to do some promos and some other work that day. And then we also played a little trick on Brooke. And we're going to play that here now. Roll it out. East Coast feed. Here on the West Coast. Well, that can't be it. What's that? Oh, that's live. Here we go. I'm like, what are those people doing? Roll it out. This is it's a industrial. It's only for them. Actually, you can put it on your Instagram.
Why not? We can do it.
Yeah.
But then there's only one question that remains.
What's that?
Brooke Logan.
Oh my God.
Would you please become Kazlauskas for the rest of your life?
Oh boy, what a ruse. We had to do all those promos for this.
Put it on. Put it on. Let's make sure she fits.
Oh.
A lot of promos.
Look at that.
Are we good?
Brooke and the Kazman, everybody.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Wow. That's a real thing.
Yes, it's really rolling. It's happening. It's happening, yeah.
Not only that, he's been planning this for months.
Very long time.
And I was like, we don't have a show, but I'll come up with something. Yep, Mrs. Ryan. So there you go. Brooke and the Kazman are becoming, I don't know, Brooke and the Kazman.
Yeah. Welcome to the family.
They got engaged, everybody. So congratulations to Brooke and the Kazman. They did it right here in front of us. That was interesting. I don't remember. I've seen people get married, obviously. I don't remember if I've seen any engagements other than ours.
No, I don't think I have either.
That's kind of wild.
Yeah.
All right, Mrs. Ryan, it's time to check in with you and ask the question that's on everyone's mind.
Dun, 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 dun.
What's going on, Mrs. Ryan?
Car culture is once again infiltrating the name game in the States.
Oh, what does that mean?
Well, Ford and Bentley became popular names like for new babies and stuff over the last bunch of years, whenever there's like a big new car or whatever. So now there's been hundreds of kids named Elon and Tesla.
Wow. I heard a story the other day. There's tons of Khaleesi's this year, too, for the Game of Thrones people, yeah.
All right. Well,
So
pop culture really infiltrates everything.
Is it Ford and Bentley? Those are the two big ones?
Those were previous. Now it's Tesla and Elon.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gotcha. Yep. That's so funny. God,
here we go.
Funny.
The moon, we don't normally think about like the properties of it. It's just like something like a rock in the sky, and no one really knows anything
Except
about it.
when you talked about it and having water up there and stuff.
I'm fascinated by it because to me, it's just a microcosm of what's down here. So anything we can study up there and relate to Earth and life and us and whatever, I think is really cool. So that's why it helps me look into it more because people don't often talk about it. But they are finding that it's slowly shrinking. Really slowly, like 150 feet over like millions of years. But it's indicative of they're saying that the cause of the shrinkage is that they have earthquakes up there. They call them moonquakes.
That would make sense.
Right. But it's affecting there it is. It's affecting just the structure of the rock. So they're looking into it and like cuz it cools inside and then it shifts.
Okay. What?
Saw your face.
No, I'm curious where we're going with this. You're telling me all about it, but what does that do for us? What does it mean now that the moon is
They're
shrinking?
not really sure. They're just finding that it's shrinking.
Right.
They didn't really think
so we'll
it was.
keep an eye on it. Right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Like this is new news, right?
It's new from data from the 60s and 70s. But yes, they're looking at it newly. Whatever. Now that they can look more in depth on things, scientists are figuring out why stem cells are so effective in treating, healing, and stuff. They don't have their immune system and their antiviral system is turned off. It's stem cells, not like regular cells that like have stuff and do stuff. So stem cells are just like not playing games. They're not interested in what's happening. They're just there to form stuff. So when you hear about stem cell research and stuff, that's where it comes in.
Sounds like they're more focused cells.
Yeah.
They're like, leave me alone. I'm doing my work. Quit farting around.
Yeah.
Like some of the other cells.
Yes.
that we've trained to just relax.
They're not as easily distracted.
Yeah, that's good.
That's for sure.
I want more of those for all of us.
Same.
Be more present.
And then lastly, warmer water is found to contain and hold less dissolved oxygen, which might not be a big deal to people, but then colder water. So
Makes
with
sense.
rising temperatures, there's less oxygen in the water, and it's affecting fish, which whatever, except fish have ears, which I did not necessarily, I kind of assumed, but I didn't really know, but there's trees in their ears, ear stones that they're finding. So we can figure out and kind of track how water and oxygen levels affect organic matter.
How about that? Oh my gosh, and that's been What's Going On. Dun, 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 dun. All right, Mrs. Ryan, thanks for the news. Let us do a quick break and get our guest Chris in here, shall we?
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Jacobs will be sitting in that chair right after we come back from this little break right here. More to come. And with that, we are back. We're sitting here with Chris Jacobs. Dude, I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Me too.
Forever.
I know. This is a long time in the making.
I'm really excited you're here. Thanks for squeezing it in.
Of course.
Got marbles in my mouth today, like I said.
It's all right. It happens.
Probably say because of your schedule, we're doing this at 9 in the morning, which
Yes.
is not normal for our little nighttime show.
Nah, that's why we do things inside with no windows.
Exactly.
Any time of the day.
Tint it, black it out. I think everybody probably knows you as a Mopar guy.
Yep.
But how did you get into cars? Can we start there?
I mean, yeah, I guess
Just
overall,
a little primer?
it's so funny because I've been like a car guy for so long now that it feels strange to think back of how I became a car guy. I guess I attribute it to my dad and my brothers. My dad always had Porsches, which kind of was my love of the 911. Yeah. I can remember distinctly 3 or 4 different really cool kind of unique paint jobs that he had. There's this guy on Instagram, Shu, who you may follow or not. But he's got that real cool 911 graphic that's on the hood. Real like kind of 70s style, big fat numbers say 911 on the hood.
Yeah.
My dad had that one.
Yeah, the stripes and it turns into a 911.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly. He had a beautiful like robin's egg blue 911.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So, and then my brothers were more muscle car guys. My brother Zach had a GTO 66 convertible, and my brother Clay was into the Camaros. So the 80s Camaros,
all
though,
over
not
the place,
the
too.
cool 70s
got
Camaros.
a
Yeah,
little
the
of
80s
everything.
Camaros. Yeah.
Like the Z20, like the big, the
Yeah,
squared
yeah,
headlights.
yeah. The Gen maybe 4, I guess that would be.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was kind of like my introduction. I didn't really know much about cars mechanically, but I loved the aesthetic of cars. So then when I got
where did you grow
Overhaulin, I grew up in Chicago.
Okay, so he had cool cars in Chicago. That's
Yeah.
kind of a feat.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, totally, right? You can
Well,
only
you know
use
what
them
I mean. I grew up
half
in
the
New
year.
England, so yeah.
Exactly. So
5 months of
that kind of
driving.
like just turned me on to cars, and then when I got Overhauling, obviously my knowledge of cars accelerated
Yeah.
greatly. And
When was that? That was a couple years ago?
2003.
Okay.
Yeah, 2003. So we've been on the air since 2004, and have never left the air, even though we've been out of production for a little bit. We've gone in stages. The first phase was 2003 to 2007, I believe, and then 2012 to 2015.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember it being more recent than
Right.
that. Okay. So were you into cars, but not as much until that show then?
Yeah, I was into cars. I loved cars. I had a couple cool cars.
Do people know that about you? Because you really do come across as a car expert.
Well,
I mean, you for sure are now.
I have become somewhat of an expert. I like to say it like this when people ask me about it. If total car knowledge is 100, like Chip Foose is a 100.
Okay.
He can do anything with a car.
That's the scale.
He knows all of it mechanically. He can build it. He can draw it. He can design it. He can do everything. My knowledge when I started Overhauling was maybe like a 15, and now I'm up to maybe like a 35, 40,
All right,
maybe.
fair enough. That's awesome.
So there's still
More like
so
me.
much to learn. I am not a mechanic. I've never claimed to be a mechanic. I can take cars apart very well. Putting
But,
them back
yeah.
together,
That's
I
different.
leave to the experts, especially when we're under a time crunch like we are
Like
in
the
Overhauling.
show.
Yeah, give me the simple stuff. Yeah, you want me to install a tail light or something, I can figure that out. But as far as like getting a car to actually start and run properly, I'm going to leave that to the experts.
So it's possible that it's more. You may actually be more like me, where people just sort of assume that you know more about cars.
Yeah, right.
It's
Well, I do.
on television, it's easy to be an expert when you're cutting around
Absolutely.
your knowledge.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm Barrett Jackson, which is live, by the way. I rely a lot on just my kind of macro knowledge of cars, and then for the micro, I'm either reading
You got the
the
sheet.
sheet on the car itself, or I do a lot of Googling on the fly.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah,
Just
absolutely.
live research.
Yeah, live research, and I know my hit's coming up. Got my camera with me. They tell me, we'll get to you in a couple of minutes. So my producer, Fran, who knows a lot about cars too, he and I kind of brainstorm, okay, what can we say that's unique about this particular car? I like to drop a little tidbit for the audience,
Get 'em
tell them
interested.
something that maybe they don't know,
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's...
What would be an interesting tidbit? I mean, just like maybe an owner history, or
Well, yeah, I mean, you got, for instance, the how to tell the difference between a 55, 56, and 57 Bel Air just by looking at the car. Things like that, kind of that macro style of knowledge.
This is a 57 because of the right over here, it's got the blah, blah,
exactly,
blah.
The real sharp fin versus, the 55, you can kind of see the 5 in the molding.
No kidding.
Yeah, on the driver's side, the molding at the back actually forms the shape of a 5.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so
wild.
cool.
Yeah, so
probably
you'll
not
notice that
intentional.
next
It's
time.
just one of those things.
No,
right?
I don't think it was intentional. I think it was just one of those things. And then on the passenger side, it's a backwards
S
5.
or whatever
yeah,
it would be.
Exactly. Yeah, and then
Z.
the 56 just had that slightly longer tail fin, and then the 57 obviously really easy to spot 'cause it's got that real sharp tail fin.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm so fascinated by you already because you're already not what I thought you'd be. You know what I mean? I don't know. All right. So that's how you got into cars. I didn't know that you were a Porsche guy either till right now.
Yeah. Well, this is obviously always a Porsche guy because of my dad, but really got into Porsches in 2005. So I was living up here in Burbank, and we were shooting Overhaulin down in Irvine. Which is a 50-mile drive one way.
Not including traffic. It's just straight 50 miles.
Hell. I used to take like 7 different freeways to get there. So I was driving a 2005 Dodge Magnum at the time, and which is not the most
Grando gas mileage.
Yeah, exactly. Not the most efficient car. So I'm like, I need a little freeway zipper. So I was thinking like maybe a 240Z or something like that.
Oh, something fun.
Yeah, something economical and small and just a little go-kart. So I was standing in a 7-Eleven, and I don't even know if they have these anymore, but Auto Trader, like the actual hard copy of Auto Trader. Yeah, so I picked it off the magazine shelf, and I'm paging through it, and I come across this 911, 85 911, triple black Targa. So I didn't even buy the Auto Trader. I just pulled up my phone, I dialed the number, put it back on the shelf. And it just so happens that
you're saving up for a Porsche at that point.
Yeah, right, exactly.
$150, leave it there.
He was living. The guy who was selling it, he was actually selling it for his dad. He was living down in Laguna. So my lunch break from Overhaulin in Irvine, went down to Laguna, drove this car, amazing.
Yeah.
I knock on the door. This guy Reed answers the door, and he's like, "Yeah, come on down." He was selling it for his dad, who had it as his desert car, just his Palm Desert little cruiser. So it only had 80,000 miles on it at the time, which translated to about 5,000 miles a year he had driven it.
Which is like really perfect.
Just broken in, basically, for a 911.
But it's been driven, so it's maintained
exactly.
Probably.
So I drive it, love it. My budget is $17,000, right? So
it was a few years ago when these were.
This is 2005, where you can still get it. It's now over double that. Yeah.
And then
so I tell him, I said, hey, listen, 17's my budget. You're asking 19.5, I think. Can you work with me here? And
like the car, I want the car.
Yeah, I love the car. He's like, let me ask my dad. He goes in, he calls me. He's like, he really can't do it. He wants to hold fast to his price. I go, guess it wasn't meant to be, and I left. So I called him the next day because I could not stop thinking about this car. It was perfect, and still is.
Your face just lights up talking.
Oh my
this
God,
is a family
I love this
member. I
car
can
so
see
much.
it.
Exactly.
For sure.
It doesn't matter how much this car is worth because I'm never selling it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same way.
So it might as well be $5 or $5 million. It doesn't matter. So I called him the next day and I said, hey, listen, I really love that car. I just want to try one more time. He's like, calls his dad again, and he's like, all right, well, my dad will meet you halfway. So ended up coming down a little bit. I squeezed out a couple more bucks from my budget, and that was the best day of my Porsche life.
And you got it done.
To get that car.
And you did it.
Got it done. I drive it all the time. And here's the best part of the story. So Reed, the guy who sold it for me, to me on behalf of his dad, I kept seeing him. I saw him at Barrett Jackson. I saw him at SEMA. And he'd always be like, hey, man, how's the Porsche? And I was like, Reed? He's like, yeah. So then he started working for Barrett Jackson. He worked for 10, which is the Enthusiast Network, which became Motor Trend. And now he is my manager. Reed's my manager. He got out of doing that and he went into talent management, and we work together now. And he's a friend of mine now too. So it's fantastic. It's a great relationship that we have.
Sounds like a guy who clearly had an aptitude who could do whatever he wanted. But
Absolutely.
that's a bit of a career shift.
Yeah. Yeah.
From cars to
And
entertainment.
a great
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
It's really
Well,
neat.
congratulations
Thank
on
you.
getting a friend, a
Yeah.
manager, and a cool ass
it could
car.
not
out
have
of it.
worked out better. And and a cool ass car. And
Yeah.
it's like that car is just a dream. It's now got 118,000 miles
Good
on
for
it.
you.
Runs like a top. I
It
love
was supposed
taking
to
the
be a
Target
commuter
top
car,
off.
but it's probably not a commuter car for you anymore.
No, I mean, well, it's kind of like I have a little stable of cars that I drive, so I don't really have a daily driver.
Sure.
I'm gonna be picking one up soon, though. I think I'm gonna finally break down and get a Charger Hellcat. Yeah.
Okay. A friend of
So
ours
that's
has
what
one of
I'm
those.
looking-
It's just fierce.
I'm waiting to see if they come out with a Charger Red Eye, but that might be a little too much horsepower for a daily driver. Not that 707 in the Hellcat
It's
what-
isn't too
Earl
much
Skakel's got
It
one
is-
of those.
it-
Yeah.
horsepower, but they're awesome cars.
Well, the sound for one. Mm-hmm. And so the Mopar thing, and then you said GTO before too.
My brother had a GTO.
But
Yeah.
were you into that at all?
I mean, yes.
Just
I mean,
the fact.
I appreciate GTOs.
Okay.
I got a buddy down in Orange County who he has a huge GTO collection.
I'm really good friends with the DeLorean family, so that's why every time the GTO comes up, I'm like, that's almost a more famous car than like the DeLorean.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
that-
I mean,
that
he
John
named the GTO to kind of stick it to Ferrari a little bit.
Right.
It's the same people?
Well, John DeLorean used to be with General Motors back in
Oh.
the day before
Yeah.
he left to go start his own car company.
Right.
So every time
uh,
the GTO comes up, I feel this like some personal
It's connected.
responsibility to be like, John DeLorean did that too,
Right.
I don't know.
Aw.
Ridiculous.
That's great automotive history. Actually. And I love if I am in Detroit and I have a free day, I take a little nostalgia historical tour of Detroit. I've been to the Fisher plant and the original Ford plant down there, and of course I hit all the Dodge manufacturing
course.
plants, Lynch Road and Hamtramck, which no longer is there. It's just a big field now.
Oh, is
but
that
the
true?
Lynch Road plant is still there. Yeah. And no longer manufactures cars, but the building itself is still standing.
Are you into like design or architecture or any of that stuff?
Oh,
too?
yeah, absolutely.
So am I. So the GM plant is so attractive to me with the old Saarinen
Yep.
buildings and all that
Yeah.
stuff. I love that. All right. Well, switching things around a little bit. I didn't know until today. Well, I saw you on 2.5 Men once
Yep.
a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
But
that
I
was
didn't-
2003.
Were you an actor first?
I was.
Before hosting?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I went to.
Probably still are, I
I
would
went to
imagine.
college. Well, I mean, not really. I haven't done any acting
But
in
if
a
somebody
while.
wanted to hire
if
you,
yeah,
you
if
could.
someone wanted to hire me, yeah, I would
Go
do
call
it,
Reed.
Of course, exactly. Yeah, talk to this
He'll
guy.
see if you should do it or not.
Make me an offer. But yeah, I went to college and I went to law school. I passed the bar on my first try. And
Do
then,
people know that about you?
I think it's known. I mean, I never practiced. I went right into acting as soon as I got done taking the bar.
Like most.
Yeah, right. I said, what's
I'm gonna work my
harder than
ass off?"
trying to be an attorney? Let me see. Oh, trying to be an actor.
Yeah, good
that
job.
I
makes
want
sense.
the same thing, but with a whole lot of turn downs.
Where
So
was
I-
law school?
Rejection.
I went to law school at Western State
Okay.
down in Fullerton. Passed the February of 1995 bar. So I was an attorney at 25 and then
Holy
got into
smokes, man.
acting. I was an actor from 95 till 2003. Moderate success. Did a lot of commercials, bunch of TV shows like 2.5 Men.
I mean, that was one of the biggest shows going at the time. So
yeah.
that's why I said that one first.
Yeah,
There was a lot of other stuff
That
on
was
your
that
list.
was a lot of fun. I only had a couple lines, and it was a very memorable scene with Charlie Sheen, and so then in 2003 I got Overhaulin, and that's kind of when my life really changed and became a host. I recognized that I have more of a skill at hosting than I do at acting.
Yeah, I feel the
I
same
was a
way.
very kind of run-of-the-mill actor, but as a host, I feel very comfortable and feel like I have a skill at it. So
Well, you have a great personality.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
you seem to be, some people, when I first started doing this, you get all hosty.
Right.
And you can't do that. You
No.
just have to be yourself. And you're just so good at being yourself
Thanks.
that everyone, I think, anyway, for us anyway, it's just, oh, he's so nice and likable and relatable and I want to be his friend. And that is the best possible list of things you can have if
Yeah.
you're going to be doing that job. I would
absolutely, and
imagine.
that's what I try to do. I just try to be myself. I mean, this is who you get. I mean, certain things you gotta kind of adjust your hostiness to kind of fit what you're talking about. I've done a very wide range. I've kind of become the go-to live guy for Discovery. Like I just got back from Egypt. I was doing Egypt live
it's
out
on
there.
here.
I'll
Talk about that whenever you're ready.
Unbelievable experience. But I did this thing years ago called what was it? Exorcism Live, where we went to the house where the events that the exorcism is based on actually occurred.
Oh, no shit.
In St. Louis, yeah.
Wow.
So for that, you got to be very, Exorcism Live. Welcome back to, So you got to kind of adjust a little bit based on what you're hosting, but for the most part,
isn't that self-protection?
A little bit.
If I turn it on a little bit, then it's not me talking. This is my job.
There was
Don't look at the camera.
A small element
yourself.
of that. And then Memorial Day, I'm hosting Diesel Brothers Live.
What's that?
They're going to be this big live event in Utah. I believe what's happening is they are going to jump a diesel truck over an airplane that is flying.
That is flying?
It's a stunt airplane pilot who is going to fly
I'm picturing the
underneath.
Ken Block thing where the motorcycle goes over
Yeah,
the rally.
yeah, pretty much. But it's a plane and a diesel truck. Yeah. So that should be fun.
It must be one torquey diesel truck.
They jumped it
Like what kind of truck
last
is it? Is it a
weekend.
semi?
It's a no, it's not a semi. It's just a big. I'm blanking on what they call it. They've got a name for
But should
the
we
truck.
imagine a giant pickup truck or a box truck?
Yes, a giant pickup truck. Yeah, if you watch the latest episode of Diesel Brothers, it's all the preparation for
Leading
the
up.
live event. Yeah, so it'll give you an
Sounds
idea.
nuts.
But it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward.
Where are
to
you
that
going to
one.
do it? You said Utah?
Outside of Utah, about an hour
my
outside of
God.
Salt Lake City. Mm-hmm.
It's just somewhere out there in Garden of the Gods or something.
Yeah.
Where,
Lots of
they
room.
hide Airwolf. Is that where it's going to be?
Probably, yeah.
Again, dating
I'll
myself.
look around for those guys.
In preparation for this, I watched an old episode of Overhaulin.
Oops, sorry.
You and Chip Foose, of course,
Yeah.
and it was the 356 episode, Porsche 356
Oh, yeah.
episode,
Mhm.
with our good friend and neighbor, Rod Emery.
He was the MVP on that build.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Do you
It was
remember
great.
that well enough?
absolutely. Yeah,
Really?
yeah, for sure.
Because I looked at the date and I was like, this is not recent. And you look like a kid, and Rod Emery looks like a kid. And it's
Right.
like, oh my gosh. I remember it like it's yesterday.
When was it?
Probably 10 years ago, I think.
No, it was probably, that was in the second run, so it was sometime
that's
between
not too bad.
2012 and 2015. So it wasn't that long ago.
That's not.
A lot of the VW purists were very upset because we had
The oval window.
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of was
I was looking at that episode this morning, and I'm thinking to myself, nothing about this is really okay today.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the car that's sitting there that you guys are going to overhaul and make better is nowadays probably worth more how it was sitting. Not at the time.
Yeah,
Not at the time.
It was a very, very rough car.
okay.
It required a lot of metal work.
Gotcha. So it was TV friendly, but up
It was,
close.
I mean, every car is special, of course, and valuable to whoever puts value in that car. It's like that old saying, what's every car worth? What someone will
What are you
pay
willing
for
to
it.
pay, yeah.
Exactly. So I didn't view it that way. Obviously, Rod didn't view it that way because he was on the build with us.
Yeah.
The VW purists were freaking out because they thought that we had cut up a oval window VW, which we did not. We just had that piece.
Well, you did. It made it seem that way, right?
Yeah, but we did not, cut into like a existing VW. It was just
Gotcha.
this shell, and we, took the back
Good
window
for
out of it.
people
Yeah,
to know.
exactly.
I'm glad you can clarify.
I mean, if anything, you saved a part of an old car.
Exactly, yeah. And we kind of made this cool Frankenstein version of a Porsche with a VW rear window in it. And essentially, I mean, if you know your Porsche history, VW is Porsche.
Yeah, same thing.
I mean,
Especially
it's-
back then.
Ferdinand Porsche designed the Beetle.
Mm-hmm.
That was his first commission when Porsche was a consigner, essentially. They were a design house, and the German government came to them and said, we need a people for the car, a Volkswagen. And he designed the Beetle. I mean, if you think about the design history of the Porsche family, it's unbelievable. Between the Beetle, the 356, and, of course, the 911. Those are three of the most iconic designs
Of all
in
time.
automotive history.
Of
And
all
it came
time, yep.
from 3 generations of Porsche.
Of any car. Like, just iconic
Exactly.
visual.
Like you see, especially the 911, you see or even probably more so a Beetle.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody on the planet knows that that's
Yeah.
a Volkswagen Beetle.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Whether they may call it a bug or whatever.
Right,
but
whatever they want to call
it's
it. Yeah,
identifiable.
same thing, I think, with the 911. Like, everyone knows at least that's a Porsche.
Yeah.
For sure.
The reason the design hasn't changed since 1963 or whenever it was, debuted. The
So
Frankfurt
similar.
Auto Show. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, is there anything you can tell us that was interesting or special from that build? Again, because it's so fresh in my mind, and at the time, it was one of my all-time favorites. Because whatever we said a few minutes ago, I love how the car turned out. It was really, really cool.
Oh, so cool.
You know what I mean? Like
so
I
cool.
would take it.
Yeah,
I would drive that car.
I love everything about that car. I love the color that Chip picked
With the stripe and everything on the bottom.
Yeah,
I
the
love
stripe
that.
along the running board is
What
phenomenal.
color?
The color, it's like kind of a creamy white. Yeah.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Well, it's beautiful with this kind of red houndstooth interior, the banjo steering wheel. He did the little tiny reverse lights on it.
Yeah, and shaved the bumpers and stuff.
Shaved the bumpers down, of course, which is a Foose signature. And obviously the rear window is the major design change in it, which I think just
it really made it, though.
makes it even better. Yeah.
I know.
Because it's
I
so
did too.
unique. And then to have
It just
Rod,
looks good,
who's
though. It
the-
looks like it was supposed to be that way.
It does, and that's Chip's genius, is that he does design changes to cars where you wouldn't notice them, and then unless they were sitting next to a stock, whatever it was.
Right.
Like when he won his latest Riddler Award with the Imposter, which is a '65 Impala, he very wisely displayed it next to a stock Impala, so you could really
brilliant. Then you can see
appreciate
his work.
the differences exactly. Because you'd look at the car and be like, "Wow, it's a beautiful '65 Impala," but why is it?
Why do I love it?
Why do I love it so much?
What's
Why is it
special?
making me
What's special?
feel all these feels?
Yeah.
So
God, so well put.
that's that rear window on the 356 was really that same way. It's like it would just speak to you, and you wouldn't know why unless you were a Porsche expert or a 356 expert, or it was sitting next to a stock one. But having Rod Emery on that build and kind of giving it his blessing and
Well, you were a Porsche guy at that point. You already knew who Rod was, right?
Yeah. Well, I was kind of in my kind of salad days of my Porsche fanaticism, but much more so than now. I had heard his name. I'd never met him before.
Okay.
I wasn't really familiar with his work until we started the episode, and I kind of did a little research on him and said, "Well, this guy is
Knows his
amazing."
stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, he has blossomed into the 356 guy, in the world. So his shop is unbelievable. The car that he just debuted at Luftgekühlt was phenomenal.
RSR.
I cannot wait to see it in person.
Same
That
here.
is just
The
gorgeous.
pictures
Yeah.
are so pretty.
Yeah.
Him and
You-
Amy's photos are just incredible.
You were working, so we're not able to go to Luftgekühlt this year.
Well, I wasn't working. I was actually in Chicago visiting my family.
Oh, okay. Out of town.
And I was out of town. I was throwing out the first pitch of the Cubs game.
Seriously?
On the same
Congratulations.
day, on the
That's
11th.
awesome.
Thank you. The
How'd you
fourth
do your
time
first-
I did it.
fourth time?
My fourth time. I'm a lifelong Cubs fan, as you can see.
I saw that there.
From
sure.
the hat, yeah. So being at Wrigley is just like going home, basically. It's amazing.
Do you, is that, it's sort of a silly question, but I would have to assume that's one of the nice parts of success and being known
It
for
really
what
is.
you do is
Yeah.
that you get opportunities
I
like
do,
that.
yeah. I get
Really,
amazing
get you at the heart.
opportunities. Totally. I mean, I really just have to pinch myself and say, wow, you're really lucky to be able to do the kind of things that you do. I don't want to say I take it for granted, but it's like sometimes I have to stop and say, look where you are right now. You're walking out to the mound on Wrigley Field. You're about to throw the first pitch out.
mean-
You're chatting with Joe Madden, the manager. You're saying hey to the fans and stuff. And it's really cool. It's special. That's why I always try to be as nice as possible to everybody and take time with people because, if it weren't for them, you wouldn't have the opportunities and the privileges that you do.
Yeah.
So, people say, oh, I'm so sorry to bother you. It's like, no, wait, bother me. In fact, when you stop bothering me, that's
That's
when
the
there's a problem.
That's a bad day.
That's when I'm unemployed.
Continue to bother me because it means that I'm still doing what you want me to do.
Do you know who Nicholas Hunziker is?
Oh, yeah, of
we
course.
had him on the other.
Yeah.
He's a good friend. He does our wardrobe and
Yep,
everything. But
I
we
see
had him
that.
on the other day, and he was talking about how many commissions he has backlogged, and we were saying, oh my God, I don't know how I'd sleep at night. And he's like, well, the moment that backlog's gone, I'm unemployed. Like
Right.
I don't, you know what I mean? You have to keep that.
Yep.
So it was sort of an eye-opening thing for me. I have to assume it must be that way for you with hosting duties here, there, everywhere. If the phone stops ringing, that's not good.
That's bad.
Yeah.
That's really bad. But fortunately, it's continued to ring.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Most recently, Egypt.
Yes.
Can we talk about Egypt?
Of
Because
course.
I'm fascinated with the subject in general. I never went to college, but that's something I could have studied.
It was an amazing experience. We did not do the traditional kind of Egyptian touristy things. Like I didn't go to the pyramids.
Again, you were
I
working,
didn't
right?
go to the Sphinx. Yeah, we landed in Cairo. We were only in Cairo for about 8 hours and then got up very early in the morning, got on a bus, and we went down to Minya, which is about 4 hours south of Cairo.
Okay.
And this is where the dig site was. And they
People
believe
know what you were there for, or
yeah, we were there to open for the first time ever a sarcophagus on live television, and it turns out that there was this beautifully preserved mummy in there, who they believe is
What's a sarcophagus? What
a sarcophagus is the like
Egyptian
King Tut's,
coffin, for lack of a better.
Okay.
King Tut's golden sarcophagus, but it's the big casket.
Okay.
Yeah, so they
Ugh.
used to
has
do
the
it.
Pharaoh's face on it from the old days.
That is,
Right.
that's
Just
that's
from
what
the
I was
movies.
seeing in my head.
So
that's crazy.
these sarcophagus or sarcophagi, which is the
I'm gonna
plural
let you
of
handle this one.
sarcophagus, I believe, they were carved out of limestone because by this point in Egyptian history they had lost all of their wealth, and the days of burying their pharaohs in golden caskets and tombs of riches were long gone. So this is about 600 years after King Tut, but they discovered this site, which they believe is going to turn out to be the biggest necropolis in the history of Egypt. They said they're going to be
Wow.
digging there for another 5 years.
Whoa.
They think there may be upwards of 1,000 tombs down there.
Theoretically, it's all covered in the sand, right? I mean,
It is.
That was
It is.
all,
It's
that
completely covered, and so they had 3 tombs that had been excavated. One known as the robber's tomb, because all of the sarcophagus had been robbed.
Yeah.
They had chiseled holes in the sides of the sarcophagus, reach in, grab whatever's in there.
Ew.
And this is
Well, they used to be buried
thousands
with
of
your,
years
with
ago
your
too.
riches back
Right.
in the old days.
This is going back 2,500 years. The family tomb, which was a series of graves down there, and the skeletons are down there, and it was amazing to go down into these tombs.
It's a holy place, right? I mean, that's their last.
It is,
resting
yeah,
place.
yeah, exactly. And then the main tomb, which is where the sarcophagus that was sealed was found, and they opened that on live television, and that was like the
Yeah, but you
big
did
moments.
It wasn't Al Capone's vault with nothing.
It
in
was
it.
not.
I mean, you
No,
had
we
you
kind
had a
of
real
we had a
deal.
pretty good idea. I mean, the Egyptologists that we were working with, who are, by the way, the most renowned Egyptologists in the world, Dr. Zahi Hawass and Dr. Mustafa Waziri.
Shout out to those guys.
Can you believe I just pulled off both
No.
those names?
I'm
so impressed.
I said those names a lot to practice. Trust me. But it was a very cool and unusual experience because once down in Minya, we were staying on a riverboat, which was our hotel basically on the Nile River.
Holy
So my
smokes.
view out of my hotel room was the Nile, and this is a very rural part of the Nile, so just completely surrounded by farmland. Very, very cool.
Wow.
And we were working nights, so we would leave the boat at about 3 p.m. and get back there at like 2 in the morning, 3 in the
What was
morning.
the reason for working nights? Was it
Well,
was
to
it
be because we were going to be live,
Oh, you had
and
to.
so
sure.
yeah,
That
it
makes
was
sense.
2 to 4 a.m. in Egypt was
Strictly production.
8 to 10 p.m. in New York. Yeah, so but it worked out very well because I was going right from Egypt to Barrett Jackson, Palm Beach, and so I was basically on the East Coast sleep schedule, so I didn't have
Oh.
any jet lag at all. It was amazing.
Weird.
I landed in Miami 6 p.m. on Tuesday night. Went to sleep. Everything was fine. Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. production meeting for Barrett Jackson, and just hit the road.
That's so wild.
I
For
kept
everyone
waiting
that
for
needs to go
jet
to
lag to
Egypt.
set in, and it never did, which was great. But so we would go from the river to the dig site, and that was it. And we were under very heavy police protection,
Yeah, I bet.
police escorts the whole way. Never felt unsafe. And then literally I had to keep reminding myself that I'm in the middle of the desert, like the middle of the desert. Minya is the closest town, but that's a very kind of small and third world type of city. And the coolest part, I think, was that every night at 4:30 in the morning, the sound of them praying would kind of float across
the
the
group
desert.
prayers?
Yeah, you
Wow.
could hear them chanting.
That's really pretty.
It was really, really cool. Yeah, it was eerie, but you knew what it was, so it wasn't too much of a mystery. But it
Well,
kind
it's a
of
good
created
thing too,
a
right? It's
really
them praying. I
cool.
mean, it's a positive thing.
Yeah, it's a positive thing, and just it kind of was like, just you had to take a moment and go, wow, this is really happening right
gets
now.
under
This
your
is
skin.
where I am. Yeah. And then the live show itself went off without a hitch.
Congratulations.
It
Yeah,
was
that's a
kind of
big deal.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had one small audio issue, but we owned it, and we cleared it up in the next segment.
Yeah.
And
Live
people
TV,
actually
man.
seemed to like that a lot. That we kind of acknowledged that happened. It gave the audience the knowledge that it is indeed live.
And not overproduced.
Right.
Right? Like this
exactly.
is happening.
Got to have a little, Got to let them see the warts a little bit.
Were you into Egyptology or any of that stuff?
No, not at all.
previous?
No, it's just as I said, I've done so many of these live events for Discovery now. It's just I feel comfortable doing live TV, and they know that they can trust me to pull it off. So they gave me the gig. I campaigned for it a little bit too. When I heard that I was on the short list of hosts, I'd call my contacts at Discovery and be like, "Hey,
just so you know, I'm into it.
Get me in there.
I'm into it.
Yeah, right. Whatever you need.
It's a heck of an opportunity, and it must have been something to do. That's like a thing you remember for the rest of your life, right? Oh,
absolutely. It was very, very cool. And
Had you ever been over there or anything?
No.
Yeah, that's amazing.
No.
All of that stuff all in one
Yeah.
shot.
How long were you there?
We were there for a week. So actually 8 days. I think one night in Cairo, and then in Minya on the Nile for 6 nights, and then one more night in Cairo, and then flew back to Florida.
Cool.
Yeah, and then literally put a hat on, and then all of a sudden I'm in Barrett Jackson mode.
He's Chris Jacobs again
Yeah, exactly.
from Overhaulin,
Exactly.
from Velocity. Oh, I shouldn't say it's not Velocity anymore. I made that
It's
mistake
Motor
the other
Trend
day.
now,
It's
yeah.
Motor Trend TV or just Motor Trend Network?
Motor Trend. I think it's
Motor Trend.
Motor Trend. Yeah.
Fair enough. Stop trying to fancy it.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
gotcha. You know what I mean? I thought the printed would be Motor Trend and there would be another
Right.
one. When did that happen? Because we've been
It
cord
happened
cutters.
on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, was the official switch from Velocity to Motor Trend.
We had Mike Brewer here recently too, and he was talking about
He's
it. And
the
it was
best.
the same kind of thing. Yeah, I'm sure you guys all know each other, right?
Yeah, I know Mike very well.
Discovery Upfronts and
He's
stuff?
he's guest hosted. He and Ant have guest hosted a few times on Barrett Jackson, which is always fun to have those guys on. But yeah, Mike and I go way back. Yeah, he's a riot. I love that guy.
He's a riot.
Yeah. The greatest.
All right. Well, switching from live TV to a show I still haven't seen. Again, I mentioned Cord Cutters, but I'm really, really intrigued by Long Lost Family.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, or where it came to be, and how you got to be involved?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, it's a show where we reunite people who were adopted with their birth families. That's generally the case. Sometimes it's siblings looking for each other, but there is usually adoption involved. And the reason that I'm the host is because that's my story. I was adopted and reconnected with my birth mom when I was 24, I think.
Ooh.
So
was that your doing?
Been a long time. Yeah, I looked for her. She turned out was looking for me too.
Oh wow. That's the best possible scenario, isn't it?
It was kind of amazing the way it happened too. It was the shortest search in the history of searches. I had been looking for a little bit, and my brother's wife at the time heard an advertisement on the radio in Chicago for this place called Truth Seekers. She knew I'd been searching. So these are all the dominoes that fell, which the stars just totally aligned. It was crazy.
I need all that stuff because I absolutely love those stories.
Cool.
So please.
Yeah. So she hears this advertisement. She calls me up. I call them. I talk to this lovely woman named Susan. She says that a nationwide search costs around $1,000. I was in law school at the time, so I was like, I think I can scrape that together. I'll see what I can do. But let's get the process started.
Yeah.
And this is in the years before the internet, so you had to do the research by good old fashioned
or whatever.
Different kind of work.
So she said, give me all the information you have. I had the hospital where I was born. I had my birth date, obviously, and I had her name from the adoption decree. So I gave her all that info. She said, all right, we'll get your file started. Send us the money when you can. I said, no problem. I went out, did some errands, came back. There was a message on my answering machine. This dates me a little bit. The fact that I have
my answering
machine, right? It's blinking. Hit play, and I say, "Hey, Chris, Susan from Truth Seekers, give me a call back. I think we have good news for you." And I was like, what could the good news be in an hour? She's gonna give me a discount.
Just bought a loaf of bread.
900, whatever. So I call her back, and she said, well, it's amazing. It turns out your mom registered with us in 1988, the year I turned 18.
Oh, wow.
And so
it's about 7 years prior?
I paid 7 years. I paid a $35 registration fee, put us right together. We exchanged letters, and then the next time I was in Chicago, we met in person. And we've had a relationship ever since. It was great.
25 years old.
I think it would be more emotionally impactful now if it happened in my late 40s versus my early 20s. Just because you're not a fully formed human being at 24.
You understand life now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was obviously a very joyous reunion. I was very happy that I finally have these answers.
Yeah,
I know who she is. She can tell me what happened. She can tell me what her story was.
The what and why of it all, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
You know, she was 19 years old. Her and her high school sweetheart had, you know, unexpected pregnancy. She tried to keep me for a little while. She wasn't able to do it. So she placed me for adoption. A very typical story.
I was going to say, common tale.
But, but I think if it happened now, it would be more of an emotional scene. It's always an emotional scene when we reunite these people on Long Lost Family.
Must be.
It makes me cry every time. I can't even watch the show, or I'll start, you know, it'll hit me. Like I hear the theme song and I start to, you know, well up.
That's what happened to me. You posted something, I think maybe last season, but you posted like a clip or whatever. It might have even been like a this season on or something like that. And it was the music and it was the people and the emotions.
Yeah.
And it totally got me. That's why I want to watch the show.
Yeah. It's great. And we just started season 5.
Oh, wow.
They either call it 4 or 5 because we did one season and they split it into 2. So it's I think technically it's season 4, but the TLC of it's season 5.
Gotcha.
Anyway, we've made like 55 episodes so far. We've got 2 in the can so far this season, and we're making 6 more for this season. And so fans of the show, I mean, it's amazing. You think car people are fanatical about cars.
Mm-hmm.
Genealogists are fanatical about genealogy. My co-host Lisa Joyner and I went to a thing called Roots Tech, which is like a genealogy fair in Salt Lake City.
Wow, there's this whole other subculture world out there.
They are so into it. I mean, whether or not they're touched by adoption, people who are into finding their family history are so into it. It's amazing.
Wow.
Like even more fanatical about it than car people are fanatical about cars.
Hard to believe.
Yeah. It's that kind of vibe. But it's great because it introduced me to a different audience. Like I now have that kind of demographic in my fan base, which is great. So it's like...
Well, it's a tearjerker, man, and you're the car guy. I mean, it's really awesome. It's very really rounds you out.
There's these odd parallels to Overhaulin, too, because there's... a separation, you know, there's a separation. Person is removed from their car, you know, child is removed from mom. There's a search. There's some consternation. And then all of a sudden there I am, and I'm bringing them back together.
Without a disguise, hopefully.
With no disguise. Yeah, no disguise. So, yeah, it's those odd kind of similarities between the two shows. But obviously the emotion in each is very heavy, and that's in a positive way. And
does it make
that's
you
what makes
feel
it
good to make those connections and to be a part of all that with these people?
Absolutely.
I mean, these are moments, again, like the moments that they'll never, ever, ever forget.
You know, there's a certain amount of pre-production that needs to go into these shows because we got to put all of our ducks in a row. But there are 2 moments on the show, 3 really, that cannot be faked, cannot be pre-produced, and are absolutely genuine. And those moments are when I meet the person who is being looked for. So, you know, if you guys were mother and child and you're looking for your dad all these years, and I find you and I go, hey, your daughter's looking for you. That moment when I tell them that I found them, and then I go back to the daughter and I say, hey, I found your dad. That moment, of course, is the most impactful on the show. And I always try to, you know, make it that way for television purpose, but it's like you can't fake that emotion.
That's real. That's
right.
like
You almost don't
it's
need
as
to
real
craft
as it gets, exactly. Yeah. And then, of course, the moment is when the two of them are reunited, and that's really the big, you know, crescendo moment of the show. And you know, you just if you do not feel something when you see that happening, you're an absolute robot. I mean,
that's
I'm
what
getting
I'm
a little
getting at.
emotional right now, just kind of thinking of the numerous times that it's happened. And we've had 2 absolute home runs so far this season, and every single one of them is just, you know, amazing.
That show's on TLC.
TLC, yep.
And it'll be back soon. We're not sure exactly
it's coming soon, and you can catch all of the old episodes on the app, which is TLC Go. And then, of course, all of the episodes of Overhaulin are available on the Motor Trend app.
Oh, that's great. The backlog of episodes.
Every single
catalog.
episode of Overhaulin is available on Motor Trend app.
No way.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
which
you
is really
time.
cool.
I'm
There's
looking
there's
forward
a
to
lot.
it.
I didn't have to
did
download that
100
this morning. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm telling you to download it. Exactly. Why haven't you already?
For all Chris Jacobs viewing.
Yeah, but there's 100 and I want to say like 115 or so episodes of Overhaulin. I mean, there's quite a backlog there.
Good grief. I just love that show. I mean, makeover shows are fun anyway, and then car stuff is fun anyway. And did you had multiple other co-hosts with you on that show, right?
Yeah. First it was Courtney Hansen.
Right.
Yeah, and then
The commercials nowadays. I see on the commercials. All
Yep, and she's got a new show that she's doing with Troy Ladd from
Okay.
Hollywood Hot Rods.
Okay.
And then there was AJ, and then there was Jesse briefly. And
Jesse
then,
Combs?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember her from the Mythbusters
Yep,
days.
she was on there with us, I think, for a season.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ariane Celeste was on for the last season.
Okay.
So yeah. But
Is that-
Chip and I are the only two people who have been in every episode of Overhaulin. Yeah.
I was going to ask, is that easier or harder to have people coming and going while you guys are trying to do your
Yeah,
work?
it doesn't really make a difference. I mean, they're all great.
Sure.
All of them were very knowledgeable and contributed to the show. Yeah.
That brings me to something else. Somebody I see you with all the time on social media because you're working together all the time is Christy.
Christy Lee.
Christy
Yeah,
Lee. Yeah. All
We're
Girls
together. We're together on Barrett Jackson. She does All Girls Garage, and she just started doing Garage Squad.
I love watching you guys throw back and forth at Barrett.
Yeah. Yeah,
I do. I don't know why. There's
she's-
something very fun about it.
she's great.
Way knowledgeable.
Yeah, she really is. And she's a motorcycle person
Yeah.
first.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so she's very knowledgeable about motorcycles, and we have a lot of fun together.
Do you ever ride at all?
I do. Actually, one of my very first jobs after I became an actor was the spokesperson
After I
for
was
the
a lawyer,
Motorcycle
after I was an
Safety
actor.
Foundation. Yeah. So I was
What?
the guy. If you wanted a motorcycle license in California, you had to watch my video.
Get
Yeah.
out.
And I think they
Stop.
just recently stopped using it.
I'm pretty sure I watched that when I got my
You
license
may
years
have,
ago,
yeah.
10 years ago,
Mhm.
something like that.
Ironically, I did not do any riding in the video. It was all like, fake riding. But I was the Motorcycle Safety Foundation
That's a riot.
spokesperson. Yeah.
That's a riot.
Yeah.
What?
Who knew?
You're on the road all the time, right?
Yes.
Your
Probably
schedule's-
half the
your
year.
schedule's nuts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Other than playing golf, which I see you do a lot.
Yes.
What do you do for your own fun, like for your own time and stuff? What relaxes Chris Jacobs?
Not leaving Toluca Lake
Really?
relaxes me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds familiar.
I have a motto, NLTL, never leave Toluca Lake. So when I'm home, I like to be home. I
Yeah.
don't like to get in my car and, go anywhere if I don't have to. Golf, obviously, like you said. Hanging with my friends. I had a dinner party at my house last night where barbecued and drank
Oh,
a bunch of wine. And
Great.
that's like the perfect night for me, is just to hang with my friends.
Friends and mellow at home.
one of our houses. We all live in the area and kind of bounce around from each other's houses. But a lot of golf. Obsessed with golf.
Are you good? You must be good if you play
I'm
as
okay.
often.
I
don't know much
I'm a
about it.
10 handicap, so average.
Well, that sounds pretty good. I
It's-
mean, you
it's
have a
all right.
handicap. You're rated.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, if you
You
play
play
a
as
lot
often.
of golf, you have to have a handicap. Yeah. But that relaxes me, obviously.
Do you play here at the one
Yeah,
right
I
around
play
the
at
corner?
Lakeside. Yep. I got a buddy who lives on the lake who's got a boat, so we
God,
cruise
that's
around on his
great.
boat.
On the lake.
My
I
buddy
know the
Dana.
lake.
Yeah, there actually is a Toluca Lake for people who don't know.
I always say that too, but isn't it like concrete? I mean, it's man-made, right?
It's not man-made. It's actually a natural lake. It has
Oh, I never
since
knew
been concreted in. The
Yeah, I
large
didn't
one
realize
has.
that,
Yeah,
though.
the small one. Well, it's
It makes me have a
it's
better
spring-fed, which is why they call that street Valley Spring.
I have
'cause
a
that's
better
all-
appreciation for it
Mhm,
now.
Yeah, and it used to be. We're going back to the 1910s and 20s, but it was an open lake. Like you could walk right up to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's completely enclosed by houses. But they filmed an episode of The Little Rascals on that lake.
That's
The
amazing.
Toluca Regatta, which is what the race was called. They had a boat race.
What kind of a rowboat race?
Yeah,
It's
like
not
a
that
rowboat
big.
race. Yeah, exactly.
Oh
No,
my
it was really
gosh.
small. But yeah,
That's
if you
amazing.
Google Little Rascals Toluca Regatta, you'll get the pictures from that episode.
That's
But
hilarious.
I love like Toluca Lake history.
Yeah.
Like all of the celebrities who've lived here and
That's why we moved here. Bob Hope. It's wild out there. that
Yep,
whole bit,
exactly.
you know?
Yep. my house was built in 1933, so it's one of the
neat.
Old Hollywood.
few remaining real Hollywood bungalows. It's kind of sad
Cool.
what's happening with some of these houses getting torn down and these
Everything.
McMansions
Yeah.
going up. Yeah, but yeah,
We are definitely getting old, by the way.
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, you can't stop the clock. As I
There
said
goes the
before.
neighborhood.
But I love living here, and yeah, I mean that's what I love to do. My job takes me on the road so much. I don't really go on a lot of vacations because, I feel like I'm on vacation when I'm on the road.
Do you really? When you're working?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I always try to find cool things about wherever I am.
Okay.
I'll do the research and I'll.
So you
Go
get to
hit- go hit
explore a
up
little bit when you travel for
Yeah,
work.
yeah, exactly.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Hit up the quirky things,
Yeah.
whatever's going on in that area.
Down to I've been to Francis Scott Key's gravesite, just because
No
that happened to
way.
be what to do where I was,
He'd be turning over if he knew they turned that into a song.
right? So yeah, just I try to really just enjoy myself while I'm on the road, and
And at home when you get back.
and when I get home, I just really, really appreciate that. And yeah, I have a very, sounds like a cliche, but I have a very blessed life. I really appreciate my life and my friends and what I get to do, and it's cool.
Without sounding nuts, I would say that translates in your work.
Yeah.
That you're
Yeah.
a more grateful person. You're not just hey, what's up? I'm on TV again.
Right.
It's me.
I tried,
It's me, TV
trust
buddy.
me, I tried so hard not to be that guy.
You're
So I'm
not,
glad
you're
to hear that
not.
I'm
Good job.
succeeding in that.
I'm conscientious of your time. I want to get you out of here. We're just over the hour. But it means so much that you did take the time and come over here. I do know how busy you are.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on here. This is a really cool thing you guys are doing. I love the setup. This is amazing.
It's crazy, right?
And the fact that you guys are local, it's absolutely great.
We're going to be moving to a studio at some point, but even that will be up the street someplace in some neighborhood that you probably already know.
Nice.
Thanks for being here, man. It's
my
really,
pleasure.
Really
So much.
appreciate it.
My
Mrs.
pleasure.
Ryan, what do we have tomorrow?
I think
Oh,
Sam tomorrow.
Tripoli's on tomorrow. That's good. Comedian
Comedian.
Sam Tripoli. And then Friday, it's back to Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Back at Newcomb's Ranch, yeah. Come on out, 9 a.m., stuff like that. We'll talk about it tomorrow. I love you very much, Mrs. Ryan. We love you very much, Chris Jacobs.
Thank you very much.
We love everybody at home. Please love one another, and we will see you tomorrow with Sam Tripoli. Have a great night.